Hi everybody and welcome to Josiah is Right. So I am back with my buddy Paul.
Hey.
And we are once again wearing the same shirts. Now,
we're Iron Buddies.
Yes, we are once again Iron Buddies. What that means, I don't know, and I'm sure I don't want to find out. If you notice though, I have a different haircut, so that's a sure sign that this isn't 2 months ago whenever we record our last series of Comic-Con videos. So thank you guys if you watched those. So Paul and I are here today to talk about a very specific topic, one that is not remotely near and dear to my heart. It is far from my soul, and it is basically movies that crush your soul. So we're going to talk about what, Paul?
The 5 worst movies in our
Yes.
the 5 worst movies in our opinion.
Yes, so
that we've ever seen.
Yes, exactly. So each of us, so you could call it the top 10 worst movies you've ever seen, because we're combining. So each of us has 5, which was surprisingly hard to narrow it down to just 5. But 5 from myself and 5 from Paul to say the 5 worst movies that we've ever seen. So just a little bit of a disclaimer, these aren't necessarily the absolute worst movies, although they're pretty bad movies, some of them worse than others, but it's sort of the worst movies that we've personally experienced for different reasons, which is what we'll share here. On to our top 10 combined list of worst movies. So Paul, why don't you start us off with your, and these aren't necessarily ranked, but we're just saying the fifth choice, but just the first one we're presenting here.
Okay, my first one is the Garbage Pail Kids movie.
That's a bad movie.
I rented this on VHS like way back when I was a kid, and I was like, this is just pure garbage. We need to turn this off. And I was like 6. You know, like when you're 6, you don't care about what you watch, but it just was gross. And you know, I love the trading cards.
The trading cards are awesome. I actually have, I wish I would plan, I have a bunch of them that a friend, thank my friend Ellen, she sent me, and I still haven't done so, but I want to make a collage out of them. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I have a bunch of them. They're awesome, and it's so cool to see them after having not seen them in years. The movie is the exact opposite of that experience.
Yeah,
when you watch this movie, it's like,
it's torture.
You feel uneasy because like the sort of puppet, like it's like little people in costumes to look like the Garbage Pail Kids, and it's just gross. It's unsettling, and it's the little kid who, the actor, I can't think of his name, who was on The Facts of Life. He was the boy on The Facts of Life.
Trudy?
No, that's the girl. That's
wait, which one?
He was like the little boy that was like lived there. Was like in like later seasons.
I'm not that well versed in
I'm
Facts
a little
of
bit
Life.
more well versed, but not that well versed. But anyway, that's the kid. Well, I'll put something on the screen to clarify who he is. But like nothing works in that movie.
Oh, and yeah, just the puppets are really creepy, and the way they move and
and the
interact
jokes
with
are just
actors.
like.
Yeah, it's just an awful movie all around.
And it's meant to be like, it feels like it's supposed to be like that sort of enchanted, like 80s sort of vibe to it, which it just does not have.
Yeah, it's just, and I don't know, I love the trading cards so much, and I just was wildly disappointed.
Now that's one I don't believe I saw as a kid. I did see it at least in college, a little bit later in my life than that, so it didn't traumatize me. But it was one of those things where when I found out about it, I was like, oh, this is awesome, because I love that, so this must be at least somewhat enjoyable, and it was not remotely.
I actually have that movie chambered up as, you know, if in conversation, if somebody says, hey, what's the worst movie you've ever seen? It's a Garbage Pail Kids movie.
There you
it's
go.
like chambered up.
Like ready to go.
Ready to blast.
Okay, so my first on this list is Freddy Got Fingered. So the Tom Cruise, the Tom Green, like garbage with poor Rip Torn is in it. He plays his dad, and like it's like the basic plot is like it's called Freddy Got Fingered because Freddy like says that he was fingered when he was a little boy, which it's inappropriate, and I don't want to go into it, but it doesn't make sense for what that means. But that's not what this is about. But it's just then a series of like the most bizarre and unsettling Tom Green gags. And this is like the point where like Tom Green was like just done being interesting. He had his MTV show, and it was just so weird that like the jokes, and it was funny, and his buddy Glenn that they would do on that show, it was actually legitimately funny, the things that he would do, and how he would screw with his dad and stuff, and his dad would be so ticked off. The real Tom Green show. And then in the movie, it was just bizarre and unsettling and hard to watch. And like Tom Green is just like creepy and not funny in it. There's like no it's like I don't know if it was meant to be like a weird piece of like avant-garde art as opposed to like a comedy film.
Isn't it like back in, I don't know, early 2000s, they'd always take like a comedic talent and then wrap the whole movie around them?
Yeah.
You know? And it was always a bad idea. Like they had the Dana Carvey one where he was like a turtle.
The Master of Disguise.
Yeah. And
it
was just like...
turtles. And that's a bad movie too. But that's not as bad as this, I think. But that's bad. Because at least to me, like, Dana Carvey, like, is doing things that are attempts at comedy. Yeah. And it just doesn't land. This is like, there's a scene, like, with a skate ramp and, like, the guy, like, breaks his leg or something and it's, like just, like, gross and, like, realistic to make it gross, like, and not in a funny way at all. So that was mine. It's, like, one of those things that, like, it makes me uneasy to, like, watch. And it's kind of similar. We've kind of both started with movies that are on that level. They're, like, difficult to watch, actually. And that's sort of why. And this might be, like, the least... Like, the other movies on this list I could watch and sort of enjoy in an ironic sense, not Freddy Got Fingered.
Oh, yeah. You know, and I think it's kind of weird how, like, Tom Green is best when he's, like, unscripted. Like, he's just talking to people and doing random jokes, stuff like that. But when you put him on a script and structure, it's just, like, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And he's not funny, you know, in that case.
Yeah. So, that is my first choice. So, back to you, Paul. What is your next entry into our list?
Okay. I would say I'm going to go with Cars 2. And the reason why I say that is because I love Pixar movies and I think most of them are great. But I think with that, they took all the goodwill from like Toy Story and Up and Ratatouille and kind of like took advantage of us.
Yeah.
Like pretty much bent us over and here's a, you know, crappy movie that they just like forced down us. And it was just awful. Like it has Mater and with a lot of poop jokes.
Yeah.
And it was just, you know...
Poop jokes are a consistent theme in a lot of, like, bad comedies, like, where they just fall back on that, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't... You get stuck there, and it's not, like, you know, it's, you know, you're Shrek 17 now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And, yeah, I mean, that was the first movie from Pixar that I was like, wow, they kind of are... You know,
yeah, they're in it for the money on this one.
Yeah, that's like a major cash grab, and
especially like when you know like the first Cars. Like I'm not actually Cars are probably my least favorite Pixar movies, and like the first Cars was sort of like John Lasseter, like he went on a big road trip with his family, and it was sort of like a tribute to like that like part of America, like that, like, you know, if you walk in Cars Land and Disneyland, that's what's cool about it. You have that feeling of this like other place in time, and that's what like the first movie kind of was able to capture.
And they had that message of like, hey, you know, you're all over the place doing all these different things, you're so busy, just slow down, like enjoy your life, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think Cars, the first Cars was a reasonable movie. It's not the best of Pixar. I liked it. But, I mean, I thought it was a solid movie. But the second one just, like, took all of that and, like, just, yeah.
It stole your goodwill.
Exactly.
To get you to come to see a movie. So.
Yeah.
There's a third one that just recently came out, right?
Yeah, I think, like, in June or something.
It's actually really good. I don't know. I have not seen it. So I say that. I don't know. It might be. That'd be ironic. Like, they're, like, basically, it'd be really cool that they're like, we're going to make Cars 3 to say we're sorry for Cars 2. But I have no idea if that's the case. So
the marketing looked promising.
No, of course, but
you know, it looks like there's a crash.
Yeah, it's like
and the wheel came off, and it's like
Owen Wilson or Lightning McQueen.
Like, he needs to reevaluate his life or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like okay, maybe it goes too serious in that direction.
Yeah,
so this is a cash grab. This is like the Cars drama film.
Like The Wrestler, but Cars. You know, like it's just.
And at the end, it's like it goes to a black screen, and then you're like, yeah, he's dead. And then you have a Bruce Springsteen song like, if you ever rode your car 100 miles an hour, that kind of thing. So, I love The Wrestler and love Bruce Springsteen, so I'm not making fun, but that would be awesome. Now I kind of want to see Cars 3, because I'm assuming that's exactly what happens.
Good, like, mashup, like, actually.
Okay, so someone on YouTube, go make that. Anyway, so it is my turn. So my next one is... one that, again, it's probably not for all the reasons around it and behind it, not the worst movie and not, like, this unwatchable mess, but it's kind of the worst because of what it represents for me. It's probably the earliest movie that I went and saw in the theater that I realized is just garbage, and that would be Batman and Robin. So I really like.
Oh, man.
I was the right age for Batman Forever to still be. I have the collection of the cups. I was still the right age for like me to think that was a good movie, and it's not a good movie. It just doesn't hold up well. Val Kilmer is not the best Batman. They have the whole dilemma that they have with him is he Bruce Wayne? Is he Batman? That's like Superman's thing. Batman is Batman. Bruce Wayne is the mask. Superman has that dilemma: am I Clark Kent or am I Superman? That's his thing. And it doesn't work when you have a character who is defined by being the superhero he is. But I'm talking about the wrong movie. But basically, at the time, I liked it. That's the point of Batman Forever. So a few years later, I'm now in high school, I think, and I think it was 97 that came out. So I was looking forward to seeing that. And this is the age where finally my friends and I are going to movies without our parents. You know, Batman Forever, that was one. Mom and Dad took us to the movies. Batman and Robin, I went with my friends, you know, and I went with my friends. And a lot of my friends like, yeah, this is so good. And I was like, oh my God, this is stupid. It's terrible. And at first, like, this is going to sound arrogant, and some of my friends are going to watch this that were my friends then. I felt like I was smarter than you guys because I knew that it was stupid, and they didn't. So, but it's just like Mr. Freeze as Arnold Schwarzenegger is just terrible. George Clooney just doesn't work. And George Clooney's great in other things, but he's not Batman. And he just kind of hung out and wore a costume like... you know, Chris O'Donnell.
Didn't he have a bat visa or something?
Yeah, he has to pay at one point. They're at a fundraiser, and also like at that time, like Uma Thurman cast as Poison Ivy, she would be brilliant in a serious like take on that character. But it's a cartoon, and it's not even like a cartoon. That's an insult to cartoons. You know, like, but her casting is fine, and she's great, but it's just every decision with that movie. And then, like, Bane, I was like, oh, I was going to have Bane in it, because I knew, like, this is, you know, a few years after Bane was introduced to break Batman's back and all that, and then Bane's a henchman. It is not a henchman. Bane's, like, a leader dude.
Even talk at the... Or just
no, he kind of growls. He's like, smash. He's like the Incredible Hulk, basically.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So that is, Bane... But that was one, and again, part of the significance for me is the fact that it was like the first movie that I went and saw, like, that I was like, this is terrible. And the other one that would be like a potential contender, which is probably around that same time, would be the first, the Roland Emmerich, Dean Devlin Godzilla, the Matthew Broderick one.
Oh, that was awful.
Yeah, that was pretty awful. That's not on this list officially, but it just, I mean, it was a coin flip between that and Batman and Robin and Godzilla, because they both kind of represent the same thing. A movie you were hyped up for, a big dramatic take on that. This is, you know, following Independence Day, where they had made that, they're like the big deal, and then they...
Do you remember the teaser, like a year before, where it has like, you know, these lizards ruled the earth or something, and it had like a T-Rex in the museum, and then you see like a Godzilla's foot smash.
Yeah, like that hype is
like, wow,
awesome.
Yeah.
And that's better than anything in the movie. And of course, that was like, yesterday Paul and I had a conversation about how like now all movies are like trying to build franchises no matter what it is. That was an early example of like franchise building where, you know, at the end it's in Madison Square Garden, there's like that egg left behind. It's like, oh, there's going to be another Godzilla, but no.
Please don't.
Definitely not. So.
Like the Mummy, the Dark Universe.
Yeah, like, and then it's like...
Did you see that?
I did not.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw that. It was painful. I was thinking of adding that into my list, but there's one that actually is worse than that movie. But I remember when the movie started, it said, The Dark Universe. I'm like, can you just make a good movie first?
Yeah, like...
And then create a universe?
Yeah, but let's, you know, like, let's earn that right.
Yeah, exactly.
And they finished the movie and they're like, oh, it's not very good. So that's really what you want to kick off. So what is your next choice, Paul?
Speaking of which, okay, this one is a more recent movie. I grew up with Transformers, and I love Transformers. Like, it was
I think all children born in the 80s, and there's some level of affinity. All males, I'm sure. Yeah. Little girls, maybe to a lesser extent, but there's at least a fondness, I feel like, for every 80s child.
Yeah, you know? Yeah. And so every time, I don't know why I do this to myself, but every time a new Transformers movie comes out, I'll watch it because I'm like, oh, I remember as a kid, you know,
Yeah.
Megatron, Optimus Prime, Soundwave, and all that.
Exactly.
And they're just so awful, and it's like almost masochistic, I think, when they watch these movies. So I was like, when the new one came out, I was like, I saw the trailer, and I was like, okay, this looks pretty good. Like, there's this weird little kid that's like, I want to stay, and I want to fight, and she's crying, and it's like, wow, this is intense. And I thought, okay, oh, and then Optimus Prime is evil. I was like, okay, so I'll watch it in the theater. And I was watching it, and I was like, what the hell have I done? Like, why am I here?
Yeah.
I didn't want to walk out because I don't think I could get my money back. So I actually just, I fell asleep. I was so bored with the movie. And I was thinking, okay, well, when I wake up, the movie over, I'll be good. I wake up, it's still going. It's like, and it was so
7
angry.
hours long, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was like 3.5 hours long. And I have no idea what it was about.
No Transformers movie. But you can add the total of them all up, and they don't need to be 3.5 hours long.
Oh yeah,
all 5 of them or whatever it is now. They don't need to be that long.
It's like one episode of the cartoon is like more compelling. In fact, the old Transformers movie from like 1986, the animated one, is way better than the Michael Bay movies by a lot.
Yeah, and
Like,
that's not
so
the
much
best
more-
movie in the world.
I know,
but it's
exactly.
Infinitely better.
Yeah, and
I will say, and for me, what was almost on this list for me was Transformers: Dark of the Moon, and it was sort of the same thing. So like, I live in Orange County. A lot of my friends live in LA, and so it's kind of an excursion to get up there. It's not, for those of you who know, it's about 40 miles ish, but it's Los Angeles traffic to get there, so it can be a thing. So I was really excited because we were going to meet up with my friends and see a movie, but the only movie that everyone else wanted to see was Transformers: Dark of the Moon. Now, after the first Transformers, I was just like, I saw the first one, I was like, I'm done. This is terrible. This is ruining my childhood. Like, I was that person. And so, but they wanted to see the Dark of the Moon, so I'm like, okay. So we went up to LA, and we were going to watch the Cinerama Dome, which is awesome, and it's historical, and it's a great way to watch a movie. So I said, at least I'm going to see it in a really compelling environment. I can see it there, and outside the theater, they had all the cars, they had the Optimus Prime and stuff. It was really cool. We took pictures with it. I was like, even though I didn't like it, I'm like, okay, this isn't so bad. And then I just watched the movie, and I'm like, this is worse. It's worse. And I'm sure they got worse after that, but I couldn't believe it, and I was like, this is worse. It's just worse.
I like how when Shia LaBeouf,
How could it be worse?
Shia LaBeouf was like, no. Like every other line is that.
Like, that's what the audience is thinking. We're thinking, no.
Oh, man.
So that is how we feel, thinking that. So I can relate to the Transformers depression that sets in. So
Yeah, that's pretty.
So it is back to me for, I think this is my third entry out of this list. So for my third choice, I had to go with a film that a good buddy of mine, and I reached out to him for some thoughts when I was assembling this list, who's been mentioned in many videos before from me, Watson. So Watson is legendary amongst my circle of friends back in the Pittsburgh area because of his awesome and bad taste all at once, where he will show you, he taught me about Robotech before anybody else did, and I didn't know what it was, and he brought Robotech into my world, things like that. Mystery Science Theater, he introduced me to Mystery Science Theater, like, he's that person. But he also, like, he'll have a thing, like, usually around Christmas when I go, we'll watch a bad movie at his place, and like, he'll find like surprising bad movies. Sometimes they're like good bad, but bad. When we were probably in high school, he showed me one, or I don't know if we watched it together, or if he just brought it to my attention, called Troll 2. I don't know if you've ever seen Troll 2.
Oh no, I haven't seen that one.
You should keep it that way. Although it's one of those, it's fun to watch with someone. So Troll 2, so first of all, it's about this family that moves to this new town called Nibelung or something, which is actually Goblin backwards. And the whole movie is about goblins. And it's called Troll 2 because it's a sequel to Troll, which has trolls in it, but Troll 2 has goblins in it.
Okay.
It's just awful. There is a great documentary called Best Worst Movie, and it features the kid who was like the star of the movie.
Yeah.
And he's in the movie, but it was like all these, like, it was like basically this Italian director who couldn't communicate with the actors, and like he was rewriting the script, and it was like really bizarre what he was trying to come up with, and his English was not great, and he's in the documentary, even to this day his English is not great, but he's trying to make this movie is like this, and he thinks it's something good, and it's just terrible. Like, he thinks it's like a piece of art. and it's just an awful bad movie. Like the one guy who plays the father's like the dentist. He's not the dentist. He's a dentist in like real life that like always wanted to be an actor, and he's really bad. But like if you watch like the Best Worst movie, you see like that they're like all very endearing people. You know, like it's just like aw shucks kind of people. But like people that probably shouldn't be making a movie. It's kind of like, which is not on this list, the famous Mystery Science Theater movie, the Manos Hands of Fate, where basically the guy, he knew, I forget which screenwriter he knew, but he knew him and he said, I can make a movie, and he made a movie, and he won his bet that he could make a movie, but it's an unwatchable movie made by people that like were trying really hard, but people that have never done it before and never did it again. So it's kind of like the same basic thing where you have a lot of small town people that are making this movie, and yeah, it's awful. But it's kind of like I don't think Mystery Science Theater ever did it, but I think like they've done a riff tracks version of it. That's maybe the way to enjoy it, so you can like get some jokes in there or watch it with friends. I don't recall, Watson, you have to chime in on this one if you're watching, which you better be, Watson. Is that if we did watch it together, if you'll recall, or if you just like forced me to watch it and punish me that way. So Troll 2 would be definitely on my list. It's kind of like that unsettlingness, like of like similar to of the first one you mentioned, the Garbage Pail Kids movie. That just kind of that uneasiness you get by watching like bad puppets or bad prosthetics. That's in this movie as well. It's like
you just want to take a shower afterwards.
Yeah.
Feel like
there's one point where the kid like takes a leak on the table to stop everyone from eating. Like
what?
Like he could have like just knocked it out of their mouth, but he peed on the table, and then no one gets to eat.
What?
Yeah.
Oh man.
And it's like set up to be like a dramatic moment where this is all he can do. So. Anyway, moving on, Paul. What is your next entry on a list that involves urinating on a table, or not?
Well, there is a thing called waterbending, and it's in the last Airbender.
What a transition!
Right?
What a transition!
It's M. Night Shyamalan.
You only get
movie.
Those here, folks.
Yeah, I know, right? And M. Night Shyamalan for after The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable, he made like a lot of Well, Signs was pretty good, but. A lot of turds.
Well, it's the progression down where it's like you could tell with Signs and like Lady in the Water, he's like trying to like he's trying to like do what he does, but he's like, I'm out of ideas for that. Yeah. I can't just make a normal good movie.
Yeah, that was really bad. And the last Airbender, people were telling me about, you got to see Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's a great show. It'll change your life. All that stuff, and it's like, okay, well, there's this new movie coming out called Last Airbender.
Have you ever watched the show?
I never watched the show.
I've never watched the show. So, and it's funny, because I've never seen the show, and I know that people that like the show absolutely hate the movie even more than like others. I've not seen the movie myself. So we're now into the movies that the other person hasn't seen, I guess, in this section. Yeah. But yeah, I had never seen the show, but I knew it was very beloved and a lot of good feedback, and the movie.
I mean, that was supposed to be my
and I'll say this,
into it.
Before you continue with that, I remember I went and saw something. And there was a preview for The Last Airbender, and it was like the trailer where the kid is doing the thing where he's like doing these things and he's blowing out the candles, and then it like says The Last Airbender, and then it says an M. Night Shyamalan film, and people cheered. People cheered.
Oh, really?
People actually cheered. That would change very quickly.
If they only knew.
Yeah. Because then, like, a couple years later, then he did that. He did After Earth. I don't know what order, but he did some bad movies. Like After Earth, which is like a sneaky Scientology movie.
Oh, is it the Will Smith?
Yeah,
which
it's sneaky
son?
Scientology. Yeah, and his son Jaden. We'll come back to Scientology for this list.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think if you know what I'm talking about, you'll know. But then he produced the movie Devil. He didn't. I don't think he directed it, but I think he produced it.
Was it the one in the elevator?
Yeah, the one in the elevator. And when I saw a preview for that, I've never seen the movie. His name came up and people booed. I don't know if I happened to see like with the same group of people, but it was funny. Like people cheered, like M. Night Shyamalan's gonna make The Last Airbender. It'll be great, and then he lost that goodwill.
I remember in the theater one time I was watching some movie and they had a trailer for Devil. Yeah. And it was like really quiet and everyone was like, oh god. And somebody in the audience was like, ah, shit, really? like really, really loud. And yeah, that cracked me up.
And I don't know that anybody watched it. So.
Yeah, I've heard it was pretty good actually. But
the three people that saw it.
I guess the three people that were like intrigued by M. Night Shyamalan. But,
so what else are your thoughts on why is The Last Airbender though bad? So we obviously did a lot of setup to.
Yeah.
M. Night Shyamalan had lost a lot of goodwill. Tell us how.
No, I mean the thing is like. First of all, I don't know anything about The Last Airbender, and they're referring to things as if I did know.
Like there's a mythology.
Yeah,
yeah,
and
exactly.
it's like there's this little kid, and he's like, "Oh, the Ong the thing," or I'm like, "What is that?" And I have no frame of reference of what.
If anyone knows, please share in the comments because we don't know.
I mean, I'm just making that up. I don't even remember it. So I'm trying to like erase it from my memory so bad, but.
And it's one of those things that like it makes me not want to watch the original too because I'm like I don't want anything associated.
Yeah, actually, that's been
the
detractor for me, and then they're all supposed to be like Chinese, but they're all white kids and they don't know how to act or anything. And then they have the kid from Slumdog Millionaire who's like the villain.
He's a white kid.
And well, he's like Indian, I guess. Well, they made it so that the firebenders are like Indian people. You know, and then like
M. Night Shyamalan? Is he trying to say like is it like a self-hate thing?
I don't know. It was just really bizarre. But I watched it and I was like, oh my god, what am I doing with my life? This is bad. Like,
yeah, too often that happens with movies. So
yeah.
Any other thoughts on Last Airbender?
Last Airbender, I'd rather kind of remove it from my brain. You know, like the Eternal Sunshine. Let's put this mind like that.
Don't even see now you're associating a great movie.
Oh no, I'm saying, but I wish I could just remove it because it's just so bad.
Yeah, like you don't want to. There's not a relationship you want to block out. Just that movie.
Yeah, just
that. Like that movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's just that bad.
So next up for me is another one that's on this list. If I ever look this way and you notice that, clever viewers, I'm looking at my cheat sheet over here. So, but clever viewers. Or all viewers. This is the only other movie, I think there's only two on this list that I can say for sure that I have seen in the theater. Like I said, Batman and Robin was one, and the other one is Alien vs. Predator. Now, Alien vs. Predator Requiem might even be an actually worse movie, because that's really, really, really bad as well. But Alien vs. Predator is on this list for me because I think I wanted to see it so bad, I saw it by myself, and I think I went and like saw it alone because I just really wanted to see it. And if I believe correctly, I saw it the same day, like back to back. I watched that and the remake of The Manchurian Candidate, which is actually quite good.
The Denzel Washington.
The Denzel Washington one. And I'm a big fan of the original Manchurian Candidate. I think it's a fantastic film, really, really great movie. But the remake actually holds up too and does its own thing, and Denzel's great in it. But I think I saw that first and then saw this, like back to back, the same theater. Not gonna help a bad movie, and I was just so disappointed because it was like it was so stupid. The girl teams up with the Predator to fight the aliens, and the Predators are planting the aliens. And what's his name? Bishop. What's the actor's name?
Oh, Lance Henriksen.
Lance Henriksen is in it, and he's not. It's like, oh, what a waste of him. And the girl main character, you just don't care about, and they go into this like they're in this Arctic base, and they go down into in the Arctic base, made me think of The Thing.
Why are they on Earth?
I don't know.
Okay, that's really weird.
Yeah, and they go down into this thing, and they find out that the Predators are planting the aliens to hunt or something, and that's the idea is that the Predators put the aliens out places to hunt them.
Oh, okay.
Just because that's what the Predators do. But it was just such a disappointing movie because it was what you have in particularly in Aliens, you have this awesome colonial marines fighting the bad aliens. In Predator, you have an awesome army group, including someone I'm related to, Shane Black, who is a screenwriter who's now doing the new Predators movie, or The Predator, I think it's called. He's writing and directing, which is coming out, I think, next year. And he was actually in the original Predator, so it's kind of a cool connection. So he's in the good Predator movies. The Predators movie was good, the one that Robert Rodriguez produced with Adrian Brody. That was actually pretty good as well. But point being, you have Predator and you have Aliens, right? So take those as your core movies. You have army groups, military groups with awesome technology fighting a monster. What you need to do is then just mash that together. No, here we have scientists on an expedition. It's like, no, stop doing that. Like, alien movies, like, we don't, like, I'm sorry. Like, if there is a scientist, there also needs to be a military component. Because that's what makes it interesting. People with big guns that make the aliens explode. That's the kind of movie you needed this to be. Like, at one point, like, the girl gets one of the Predator's spears, and it's just, like, there was such an easy setup for a good movie. The Dark Horse did great stuff in the early 90s, their Alien vs. Predator comics, which was like an extension of like the Kenner toys they had at that time. But they just didn't do it, and it was just so terrible. Like, and I was watching it by myself, which is just this other kind of torture. So when you make... Where's it at? So, my Predator in my Tauntaun. We'll take Predator out. When you take Predator... and you mix it with Alien, you take these two guys, you should have an easy, awesome movie. There's been multiple times where this failed. Like, what you add, I don't have a guy. Where's a guy with a gun? We'll use a Stormtrooper as a substitute. Take the Stormtrooper and just have him shooting them. That's all you need to do.
You're like really upset over
this.
Oh,
you have no idea. Maybe this should have been my number one on this list. Maybe this should have been number one.
This is like cathartic.
So I wish I had a G.I. Joe on the shelf. That would be perfect. Like, Stormtroopers are stand-in for the moment, but if I had a G.I. Joe on my shelf back here, I do have a Chuck Norris up there, so maybe Chuck Norris would work, especially tied to the 80s. But that's what needs to happen. Just these guys representing military dudes shooting these guys. So that's Alien vs. Predator.
Man, are you alright? Like,
I think I'll be.
You're like.
So bring it back in here. But I don't have like a combat guy. Oh, I could have grabbed like Cable. Would have been perfect. He's on my top shelf from X-Men. He's like just.
Oh yeah, he's like bulked up and.
Yeah, and he has guns.
Military.
Anyway.
Do you have that old like Luke from The Power of the Force where it's like super buffed out?
Oh, buffed out. No, yeah, I don't have that anymore. That would have been perfect. Like, buffed out Luke versus a Predator or an alien. Yeah. And if you're gonna create fan fiction, by the way, maybe I come across some good fan fiction right here. Because I don't see why these don't exist in Star Wars world, because it was a long, long time ago in a galaxy far away, right? These guys were probably around.
That'd be kind of neat. You have like a squad of stormtroopers.
Yeah, so those of you who do fan fiction, bring it all together.
Yeah, the aliens.
It doesn't have to be this. This is a first order stormtrooper. It can be old school. So anyway, I didn't realize. I don't know when I did that. The Predator was in the Tauntaun. I think it probably fell off the shelf, and I was like, because his legs are like, if you look, they're super skinny, so he doesn't stand real well.
Fits.
Yeah, he's like very. Yeah, so we'll put you back.
Is there a part where you could like slice open the belly?
That was the other version. So when I was a kid,
they have one like that?
So as a kid, they did have that version, and my brother had it. But he'll famously tell you I destroyed all his Star Wars toys. But that one was more expensive. And on eBay, it's more rare. But it had like a sort of like a rubbery sort of stomach, and you could stick Luke inside that one. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, so this one was just like the regular edition, but that was like the the Han Solo open up and stick Luke inside. So that does exist. So anyway, so moving on to your next movie, Paul. What is your next movie on the list? So we're down to our. This is our last.
Oh yeah, this is our last one.
This is our last two movies. So Paul's final entry and my final entry coming up. So hype it up, everyone. Get excited for these are two really, really bad movies.
Well, this one is just kind of. It's a Zack and Miri make a porno. It's Kevin Smith. I really like Kevin Smith's movies. Like I like Mallrats and Dogma and Chasing Amy.
Yeah, those are like
Clerks.
great, like the original Jersey trilogy, as he called it.
Yeah.
Great movies. Chasing Amy was like I still think it's a really profound story about love. That what that means and what it means to grow up as as a younger person. Like now being married in my mid-30s, I can relate to it in a different way than I watched it as a teenager and then a 20-something. I think it's one of those movies that it holds up and says something new as you grow, and I really think that's great. And the other ones are just good, funny movies. With a heart to it, and that's what Kevin Smith did.
Yeah, and this movie.
But not with Zack and Miri Make a Porno. And I would say the same. And I was excited for another reason. As a Pittsburgh guy, it was filmed in Pittsburgh. He filmed Dogma there, and Zack and Miri Make a Porno, and so and actually my buddy Frank. So Frank, if you're watching this, his cousin was an extra in that movie. So she would do like extra work in just whatever random movies when she was in school. Like, so that was one that she actually was in. I don't know if she's on screen at all. I'll have to ask Frank. Frank, was she on screen at all? Let me know. I'll message you beforehand and then
post in the comments below.
Yeah, I'll try to, because when I splice in a clip, it'd be really cool if I could find a clip that she's at least in, so I can say that. So anyway, but yeah. So those connections, like for me, like this wouldn't make my list, but when the movie isn't good, it makes it worse. Like the Alien vs Predator, like it was something I cared about so much and wanted to be good. Like my action figures, I created that movie 1,000 times better than that movie. With this, it was the same thing. Like you have this expectation for what the movie's going to be, and then
I think like Kevin Smith was a very like sincere and filmmaker. Like he felt like a geek like us. Like he loved Star Wars. He referenced it in his movie, and this was kind of like just another director. Like it's just
it wasn't like a Kevin Smith movie. And then like it was just kind of like unseemly because it was about them making a porno, but like it had this made me feel dirty watching it, like and like and the awkwardness, like, and there's certain things that work about it, like the awkwardness of filming the sex scenes and stuff, but then it just, I don't know, it just
like you take Seth Rogen and then Elizabeth Banks, and they're very like likable comedic actors, and you made them like completely unlikable, which is like crazy. I don't think anybody was able to accomplish that, but it just, I don't know, it just was an awful movie. I just didn't enjoy the experience.
Yeah, I would say I felt the same way. I was just like, wow, and this is sad.
And and I don't think ever since then like Kevin Smith really made a good movie. I heard Tusk was pretty good.
I haven't seen Tusk, but I've heard mixed things about it though. Like, but I know like he did Yoga Hosers, and I heard that's just like it's meant to be like the movie that you purposely make to be on a list like this.
Yeah.
But it's not the same when you purposely do it, and then it's just kind of like hit and miss. It's like Johnny Depp's daughter and his daughter are the leads. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
I met Kevin Smith one time, like 2004 or something like that. I think Clerks 2 was coming out, and they were
even Clerks 2 was really good.
Clerks 2 was really good.
There's things that totally don't land in that movie, but it's still really good, and it still has that. It has that heart. Yeah. That was absolutely not in these other movies that he made, like Cop Out.
Yeah, and I just. Yeah, no, I met, and he's like such a cool guy, and he's somebody you want to grab a beer with.
He's like that idea, like you said, he's like just one of us that's doing this thing.
So yeah, I don't know, and then because you have that personal affection, at least I had that personal affection with him. It's like when he makes something bad, it's like, oh come on, like you're almost like personally disappointed.
No, exactly. Yeah, which is how like the Alien vs Predator, like I take it more personally than I should.
Yeah, I mean,
because that's why I say like Alien vs Predator Requiem is probably a worse movie, but it's not worse in my heart because by then I had no expectation. But I was like, Alien vs Predator is going to be great because what it is, they can't fail this. They can't fail this. How can you get this wrong? And this.
Oh man. That really hurts you there.
Yeah. Moving on. But yeah, moving on from this, not this. It just doesn't. So my last pick, my final one is one that I know I watched with Watson. So Watson, you and I watched this in your parents' basement. We kind of at this point knew that we were going to be watching a bad movie, but it was like worse than we thought it would be. Everything is Dutch angles, bad acting, terrible special effects, and it is the Scientology secret propaganda film Battlefield Earth. Now, Battlefield Earth, I've never read the book, and I really would like to just from a standpoint, but I've read some other L. Ron Hubbard, and yeah, I don't think he's a very good writer. So just from a purely, the fact that he made up a religion aside, I don't think he's a good writer of fiction. And so I then wouldn't want to read Battlefield Earth, which is like this big. It's huge. And the funny thing is, this is another example of franchise building. They split the book in half and then wrote, this is the movie we saw was like the first half.
Oh, okay.
And then they were going to make another movie. But this is like John Travolta being a devout Scientologist. This is his passion project since the 80s. He was trying to get this made. And he was gonna play, it's like Johnny Goodboy or something is his name. Seriously, that's the main character's name. Johnny Goodboy.
Is that where he has dreadlocks
yeah,
or something?
It's Barry Pepper, who was just coming off of a great small role as the sniper in Saving Private Ryan. And then he does this piece of garbage, which probably, I don't think his career's recovered since then, because like maybe Barry Pepper's been in stuff, but this was like his jump to be a lead, and this is what he does. And Forrest Whitaker's in it, and like the aliens are weird, like feet tall things. Just they're on Earth for gold of all minerals, and like, 'cause it's to them it's the most valuable thing. Like humans are enslaved, but yet there's like the remnants of society, like Burger King stuff, not specifically, but like they go to like this place where it's like the temple of the gods, and the gods are like, you know, like signs for like fast food restaurants and stuff. Like that's what they're, but like somehow it's still around thousands of years later, and like the Cyclos obliterated Earth in like 1 minute, yet all these years later, when we are now more primitive, using 1,000-year-old technology, we're able to like defeat them in the end, because for some reason the Cyclos give Johnny Goodboy character, the Barry Pepper, like all the technology and information to beat them. I don't know why they teach him. Like I said, everything's at a Dutch angle, which like we had some problems last time, and I apologize if those of you watched this that the camera ended up kind of tilted, and it might be happening now. I don't know. But it's unsettling when you have edit, where everything's at a Dutch angle. The whole freaking movie. The whole movie. And part of why, though, is now, when this came out, I didn't know anything about Scientology. I don't think I'd heard of it at that point. Now, like, I've seen Going Clear, I've read some stuff. I'm working on a short story that's sort of inspired by the idea. So I've done tons of research. And so I know a lot, and even like a bit about the making of this movie and things. But at the time, I knew L. Ron Hubbard, science fiction writer, movie from a sci-fi writer that's coming out. So I was excited. It was a sci-fi movie when that was a cool thing to, you know, like that was a franchise that I wouldn't have heard of. It was like, you know, that they would say it's like the Star Wars of L. Ron Hubbard. Like he wrote it to be Star Wars. That's what he said. And Neil Gaiman actually, Gaiman?
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 I thought it was Gaiman.
I thought it was Gaiman. Why did I say that? Neil Gaiman. I'm gonna edit this part out.
I have a story about that actually. Let me tell you a story about that.
Neil Gaiman. So Neil, he like I had heard that like he'd given like a quote about like that was like a good book too, and I was like, you know, that was other things, because at that time I knew his work on Sandman. I had read that stuff in the like late '90s, but it just like was terrible, disappointed. It was just awful, and like beyond bad. It was like, how could you like, and like I'm sure the source material isn't good, knowing what I know now, but it's just like unwatchable, like to the point where you kind of feel like queasy, because like even if my camera, I apologize again if it is crooked, it's steady crooked. You know, I'm not editing back and forth the whole time between different crooked angles that conflict with each other. Plus a stupid story that doesn't make sense. But John Travolta, getting back to that point, he was originally wanted to play, like, so in the 80s he wanted to be the main character. By the time they made it, he was too old, so he had to be the villain, and he is terrible as a villain. He just does not work. John Travolta is not the greatest actor in the world. He's not terrible, I'll say that, but like it wasn't the right role for him. He might have been able to pull off the good character in the 80s, like a younger John Travolta might have made that work, because there's kind of less to do. But he just, the bad guy is like, he's like chewing scenery. It's like, if I were to eat this table, that's what John Travolta does for 2 hours in that movie. And again, the fact that they were like building it up like that, you know, it has a twist ending where at the end he's like in Fort Knox with all this gold, and the aliens have been on Earth for 1,000 years and they had not found Fort Knox. That's one of a million problems with this movie. Millions, say it like that. So that is my number one worst. Yeah. So that movie, like, Watson, thank you for suffering through it with me that first time we watched it. I have seen it since then, probably maybe 2 more times, just to punish myself. I must have done something wrong to someone. So those are our top 10 worst movies. So 5 from Paul, 5 from me. Those are for very personal reasons. As you can see, movies that we loathe and despise, or maybe broke our hearts for some of them. Alien vs. Predator.
But I think with me, I think these other movies, especially the ones I picked, they all felt like cash grabs. Like it was, you know what? That Transformers movie, it made it made a lot of money. We need to make a sequel.
Wait, Alien versus Predator is a cash grab? What are you talking about?
Well, yeah, and then the
Cash grab?
yeah,
Action figures that I bought in my 30s? Cash grab?
It's like
Cash grab?
Because yes, cash grab. You should have like a little cash grab, like right there.
That's my new hashtag, cash grab.
Cash grab.
Cash grab.
They could be, but yeah, I mean, I feel like it's
Brought to you by Cash Grab Productions.
like these kids. They have the Garbage Pail Kids, right? We should make a movie out of it, and we'll make.
I like how
$1
this evil the businessman with a cigar.
And I wish I had like a controlling mustache and everything. Like I feel it's
like a bald dude.
Like even like
pinstripe.
Oh, I know. And like in Tropic Thunder.
Tom Cruise playing the mogul, the movie.
Give me some
mogul.
Diet Coke. But I feel like that. Like there's it's, and I think audiences, they see that and they're like, oh man, this movie's awful because they're trying to like suck money from us. Like it's like the same like the Emoji Movie that came out this year. Like it was such an obvious cash grab, and it's like a stupid idea that they like forced down our throats.
Yeah.
And so all of these have that same element. They're like they took something that people enjoyed and like are what you would consider a pop culture phenomenon, and they try to like do a cash grab and just like not even do the source material justice.
Yeah, because even like Battlefield Earth, it's like trying to like there's the Scientology sort of propaganda aspect, but there's also grab on Star Wars because that was the time of the prequels, and so there's hype on sci-fi. The Matrix was out at that time. Those kind of things like Batman and Robin. It's part of a series where it's like let's keep making these movies, and it just goes off. So like that jump the shark moment. It just goes off, and there's not that sort of emotional, like the Freddy Got Fingered, which is one on my list, or the Garbage Pail Kids from your list. Those are all things that are just trying to cash in on the other success. Yeah. And sure, there's movies that do that and are good. Like we talked about the Transformers animated movie. That's just cashing in on at that time, but it's good. Yeah, it works. Yeah. It's a movie that you care about. Like sure, Optimus Prime dying was traumatizing. Spoiler alert from 4 seconds ago.
Let me tell you, I saw that in a theater. I cried. I was 5 years old. Optimus Prime died. I followed the car, and like I
don't know if I saw it in the theater, but I know it messed me up.
Was bawling.
I might have seen it later on VHS or whatever, but it definitely it traumatized me. So. And
then I remember the G.I. Joe movie. The response for Optimus Prime dying was like so negative that they changed Duke from dying.
Yeah, he didn't die.
And then at the end, it's like, Duke's alive, by the way.
I know. And it's like cardboard cutout goes by. Hi everybody, and it like just bad cheap animation.
Yeah, like it was not even the same. It was the same voice actor, just a board executive. You're good, by the way.
Yeah, it's like
the end.
Yeah. It's like that when Poochie, in The Simpsons.
Oh yeah.
When Poochie got written out and like he's like the animation, so you can see it go off. It's like Poochie went back to his home planet and died on the way. So thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Let us know what are your least favorite movies or your favorite bad movies, which maybe will be a list we'll do in the future. Thank you guys for watching. Again, excited to be with Paul in our usual uniform for these videos. We'll be back with some more stuff in the future. Thank you guys.
Thank you.